back, Tri-State Sports Guys. It's time for the JT special.
JT special.
What do you got for us? We don't know what's happening. We're not prepared.
So it's a little impromptu pick 'em. I got 8 different categories, one versus another, A versus
right.
B.
Yeah.
Let's do
Who
it.
you got?
Who you got?
Who you got?
JT's. Who you got? I like this. Let's go.
All right, first one. It's just an interesting little twist here, but this coming season for 2012 moving on, who you got? Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck?
Who do we got starting?
Who you got? Who you're choosing? Who you're building the franchise? Because you can't, assuming you can't
I got you.
pick both. You can't have both on your team.
Take it.
Andrew
I
Luck.
don't think they can swing that.
Andrew Luck.
I'll take Peyton Manning.
I changed my mind looking at that game, man. We talked about the
You're
dude.
a big fan of him now.
He was
played well.
unbelievable. You know, 4 incompletions in a big
kicker.
game. He was unbelievable.
That kicker is awful. Why that?
Poor kid.
I'm sick of these coaches that play for that field goal. It's not
Yeah,
a
that
short.
was
It's not a short
freshman
field
kicker.
goal.
Especially the kids.
It's not a short
a walk-on
field goal.
freshman
They
kid.
did it in a Georgia
Redshirt,
game too.
yeah.
They just play for these like 38-yard field goals.
Give me Luck. Go ahead. What do we got?
Next one?
Yeah.
All right. Matt Flynn versus Aaron Rodgers. Matt Flynn, 6 touchdowns, almost 500 yards.
And last year he had a 300-yard game.
Matt Flynn sold to you.
Yeah, I will take. I mean, he's got the. Yeah, I
You can
say
have Matt
Rosenfeld
Flynn.
used to have big games when he was
Yeah.
backing up back. I'll take
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers any day of the week.
Matt Flynn won national championship with LSU, though. Can play a little bit.
You can have him. Take him.
You could have him.
I will take
You
him.
could take him on your fantasy team next year.
All right. Chris Humphries versus Kim Kardashian.
I'm
The hump.
Nobody can buy Kardashian more than I love that girl. I love her, and she's wounded.
She's a horrible person.
She's not
She's
a
a horrible person.
Yeah,
I watched
Chris-
a little bit of that show last night. My wife is obsessed with it. To watch it on demand. And so we're watching it, and it's the one where he's accusing her friend of being gay, which she's like, this is very
Jonathan.
controversial. To me, I'm sure they edited it to make him look bad. And what guy would let some straight guy watch his wife change in front of her?
No doubt.
So why are you taking her?
Listen, everybody makes mistakes. I'm not taking her because of that particular.
Because she's a horrible person. She's not that hot.
She's a sweetheart.
She's a.
I think-
you
I
bite
think
your
what she-
tongue. She's a
What?
sweetheart. You can't possibly
I
say
think she's
a
very.
sweetheart.
I think what she's guilty of is she's not very smart.
She's a horrible person.
She's not a horrible person.
You
We
know
agree to
she
disagree.
is. No, I'm not gonna let this go. She's a horrible person.
I take Kim
The
Kardashian.
hump is getting the
Because-
shaft here.
Yeah. He is getting shafted.
Yeah.
The fans around him are
They're
unfairly.
pulling him. They don't
against
even know what they're pulling
But
him.
I don't think they should. I still feel bad for her. I love her.
I'm
She's
taking
such a-
Humphries double-double, baby. At least
Go
he's
for it.
bringing you something to the table.
That's what I
Kim
mean. They
Kardashian's
give you
giving
20
nothing
and
but,
16.
but headaches
I'm
and
never
choosing
gonna be right.
merchandise.
I'm speaking from my heart, not from my head. What else you got?
You're a horrible person.
All right, moving forward, starting quarterbacks, 2012, building your team around again. Tim Tebow, Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez. I mean, that's not even a question.
Oh, you got to take Sanchez.
It's not even a
But
question.
I prefer a third option, if I'm being honest.
I mean,
Greg
it's a-
McElroy.
I'll still take my
Is our
Sanchez.
fourth? Yeah. I'm not taking Tim Tebow.
No, I'm not taking
Okay.
Tebow, and I still think that there's some
Yeah.
good left in Sanchez.
Okay. LSU versus Alabama next Monday.
Who do you got here?
LSU all day long.
You think
We're
so?
going to talk about that later, but
We will talk about it later, but I got Alabama.
Honey
Tough to
Badger.
beat a team twice. I know you love the Honey Badgers. Tough to beat
Honey
a team
Badger's
twice.
good, man.
Yeah.
He's a
Tyrann
stud.
Mathieu. He's absolute stud.
Just need to get him.
All right. 2 coaches that are both backed with their teams next year. Who would you rather have coaching your team if you were a fan of either
Mm-hmm.
of these clubs? Andy Reid or Norv Turner?
Oh, Andy Reid in a heartbeat.
I would say Andy Reid too. I can't believe that North Turner's coming back. To me, that's one of the crazier things. I mean,
would've been
that
a
would be
good
as
guy.
crazy if Schottenheimer's
He
really
would have
does
been a
come
good
back.
guy for the Jets to get.
He would. He was the guy because I was just assuming he was going to get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy. I mean, when Rex Ryan made the statement he made about I would have had all these rings,
Yeah.
which was a terrible thing to say. He was right in fact that this guy inherited talent, inherited a team. I think they were 14-2 the last year under
Yeah.
Marty, and they've done nothing with him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have a good quarterback, a borderline great quarterback, and
That being said, as smart as Andy Reid seems to be, he does some really dumb things. He never gives the ball to his running back on 3rd and 1.
Yeah,
He
they
hired
don't
an
use him
offensive
quite-
line coach to be his D coordinator.
Yeah.
He was terrible.
That was
So there's a
I
lot
mean,
of
it was
red
a bad
flags,
decision.
but I would. If
He shouldn't have been the thing, but I think a lot of the problems I have with Andy Reid is not him as a coach. It's him as the general manager, and he
Yeah.
makes all these personnel decisions, and he really shouldn't. I don't really like when a guy's got that kind of control. I'd let him coach because
But when he had Brian Westbrook, they would have 3rd and 1. He just never would give him the ball.
Yeah, but Brian Westbrook would also have 2 over 2,000 yards of total yards.
But even LaShawn McCoy, I'm sure he'll tell you, and I only know this because I watched LaShawn McCoy in my fantasy team. He would have a huge game, but he'd have 15 touches.
I had him
But
too.
why doesn't he get the ball more?
I
A
don't
lot
know.
of the games that they lost,
We don't-
as an Eagle fan, he had less than 25 touches, which doesn't
Oh
make
well,
any sense to me.
yeah, no, I
Doesn't
know.
make any
But
sense
that,
to
I
me
mean, you think
at
that's is he calling the plays or it's
He's
I
an
believe
offensive-
Andy Reid. Yeah,
I don't know
he
if he's
calls
calling the plays,
plays.
but I know he is an offensive.
Yeah,
coach.
no, I understand.
Pretty
that.
sure he calls the plays.
But then don't you also think of look at how you could have your opinions about Donovan McNabb, but look at what he did after he left.
I agree with that too.
Well,
You don't think that this guy? I mean, it's
I
really
think he-
changed my opinion.
I
on-
think he's a great quarterback coach.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what he
Mike
did.
Vick, yeah,
yeah,
no-
right.
no
you
doubt.
look at what he did. I mean, Donovan McNabb he's not been decent. He's been just abysmal.
Donovan McNabb
The
is
last
zero.
couple
You know I
years.
felt that.
But he wasn't though. You look at his numbers. He was one of the best.
You're right. But I think
Statistically, one of the better quarterbacks of this generation.
I wonder whether Andy Reid sometimes he has like too many he's like a scientist and he's got too many things to play with.
The guy is by no means a perfect coach.
Yeah.
To me, there's only one perfect coach, and he's my least favorite guy in all sports, Bill Belichick. He's the only guy that I could say
He's a very good
you
coach.
can't really find flaws in. I mean, look, I like Rex Ryan, but there's clearly a lot of things that he can improve on. There's clearly a lot of things that Andy Reid can improve on. But if, say, they fired Rex Ryan tomorrow, I would take Andy Reid 100 times out of 100 over North Turner.
Yeah, I mean,
North
the
Turner's
reality is
horrible.
Andy Reid will get another head coaching job. North Turner will never get another
This is
head
it
coach.
for him, yeah.
Absolutely.
This is absolutely it for him.
Okay, I agree. I think Andy Reid is a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
All right, so here's an interesting one. It's the same team, but two different scenarios.
Yeah.
And I'm going to paraphrase this, but did you hear what Jerry Jones said on his radio show today about?
No.
So they addressed him about possibly hiring a general manager to basically replace himself. I'm sure they did it in a more tactful way. It's
Yeah.
Jerry Jones and whatnot, but he said, basically in a nutshell, no, I've been doing this for 22 years. I haven't changed anything. I know what I'm doing. There will be no general manager, so it's me.
Okay.
So you're an impending head coach because even if Jason Garrett makes it through the offseason, I don't think he's got much time there.
Yeah.
So you're an impending coach. Are you taking the Dallas Cowboys with Jerry Jones as the GM or Dallas Cowboys without Jerry Jones as the GM? What would you prefer?
Clearly without.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, he's going to have his hands in. I don't want to interrupt you, but he's going to have his hands in no matter what.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think there's got to be a buffer there.
I think history has shown that all these owners who act as GMs, it only lasts for a little while. Al Davis, George Steinbrenner, those guys are good. He's older,
Snyder.
and he just doesn't have his finger on the pulse as much, and you need someone who is just more into the nuances of the new age of football. And why would and Jerry Jones especially, so out there. It's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's worth it, but it's not
He's
worth it.
made one of the more attractive coaching jobs in all of sports.
Like the Yankees.
And he's made it into something
Tough one.
where, if you're Bill Cowher or something, and this job opens up, I don't think you're jumping to go work for him.
You look at the guys who have coached the Yankees. Joe Torre was a zero before he got there. It's like those are the only guys who are going to take those types of jobs.
Right.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, you think
almost-
Tony La Russa would ever go do
That's
that?
what I'm saying. You almost can't. You're like, I don't need that.
Right. Yeah,
You're
right.
exactly right.
I think that history has shown that he hasn't been successful. I mean, success is judged in wins and losses. And this year, clearly the NFC East, it was a down year for the NFC East. You could talk about how great the Eagles were, but they didn't win games.
It's been a long time since the Cowboys were good.
Yeah,
They
and
were
it's-
really good.
A very long time.
Yeah.
Middle school, for me,
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Sega Genesis.
There you go.
I know exactly what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, are you with us on this? Or
I am. The only thing though is this scenario presents itself as well. Jerry Jones, even if he isn't the general manager, he'll always be the owner. So is it a worse situation to have him making all decisions or have him looking over somebody's shoulder saying, "This is what I would do"? I think that is even a little more tension than just having him. Do
Yeah,
it.
it will. Yeah, exactly. If he were to hire a GM, would you get a
Is
really
he really
legitimate-
hiring that guy as his
Listen,
GM,
exactly.
or is
He's
he
gonna
a
get-
figurehead?
I keep going back to it, but it worked for the Yankees. You got to find the right guy. George Steinbrenner was always there.
Right.
And he managed to find a guy, whether it was Stick Michael or Cashman, who fought him off enough that he just stayed in the background. And I'm sure he had his once in a while when he wanted to sign Bernie Williams or Roger Clemens. But you can fight him off enough to do the things that you need to do. So once in a while, you may get stuck with Brett Favre at the age of 50 on your team.
Right.
But you're going to be able to pick the other guys and do most of the draft. I do think if you can get a GM in there, it's worth it.
All right, last one here. A little baseball flair. We had 7 weeks of spring
Yeah.
training and pitchers and catchers.
Coming up, yeah.
So moving forward, as signing pretty much like a max contract, high ticket price. Who you signing? Albert Pujols or Prince Fielder?
I'm signing Prince Fielder. Everybody talks about the guy being out of shape, fat. The guy plays 162 games all the time. The guy's never hurt. But Albert Pujols is 4 years older, 5 years older.
Al Pujols, it was going to be 32 in January, and Prince is turning 28 in May or April. I looked it up.
Pujols is clearly historically a much better player. But you're talking about a guy you're going to sign for 8 to 10 years.
How are
He's
they
saying
signing
a
the
max
same exact contract?
I'm assuming both of them are going to want between 7 and 10 years.
You're going to commit
6 and 10 years.
7 years, $180 million to both of them. Minimum, right? I mean, figuring he's going to get 100.
You have to go Prince only because he's younger, but I do think in the next 4 years, let's say, I would still take my chances with Pujols. Now I could be wrong, and he could get hurt, and
if I'd say the cut is probably 4 years, 3 to 4 years. I think but we're talking about big max deals, and I think that the Angels are going to be stuck with an aging guy who's been battling injury problems.
Exactly.
Clearly for next year, I'd rather have Albert Pujols. For the next, but
it's still not even that clear. There are people that would say Fielder.
Oh, offensively, Fielder can put up numbers. But defensively, Pujols is a Gold Glove.
And I'm still worried about where Fielder's going because I think that he was in a perfect situation.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm a little worried.
I agree, but I think that you look at him, he's not just a home run hitter.
He's not. He's not what people thought he was.
Exactly. You thought he was just this,
but he is an awful
character of his
player.
father, and he's not.
Yeah.
He's a legitimate hitter. He can go the other way.
Yeah.
He has
and
power everywhere. He can hit balls out of anywhere.
Yeah.
And he's super clutch, like you said. Yeah. And he's done it his whole career.
It's not as obvious as you would think it is, given how good Albert Pujols is.
Albert Pujols, I've told you before, he's one of the top 3 hitters of all time.
There will be people that, if you ask that question to, would say, for the next 2 years, I want Prince Fielder. I really believe that.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with those.
I wouldn't agree with them either, but I do think that the fact that some people would say that and would have a somewhat of a legitimate argument, it says something.
Right. If I'm a GM and I got to commit 8 years, figuring, on this kind of money, $200 million type money, I would take my chances with Prince Fielder.
Makes you wonder why they didn't sign Prince Fielder.
Well, yeah, I know. And then there were talks that they were in the hunt for, the Brewers were in the hunt for Jose Reyes. Now you're going to spend $100 million on Jose Reyes. Why not just re-sign him? I understand it's not a huge market, but God, you could lock him and Braun up, and you got a good staff there.
Exactly.
You find a way to do it. Just piece people around him. Get the rest of the team of Craig Counsell. You could find your way in the Central to win the division.
Yeah.
I agree. I would take Prince as well. It's something.
It's a great argument though, because you could. You're talking about one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Yeah. Something about him being a lefty for me too, personally. I just think. Pujols' swing is great, but when I watch them both swing, Prince does it for being such a big man. He swings the bat so violently and smooth. It's so smooth.
Yeah.
For being so violent, it's so smooth. And I something about the lefty, I think, that really sells it for me. But it's obviously the 4-year age gap that really
I think that's a big difference. Yeah, you look at a guy who's 27, 20 years old.
I agree.
That was a great segment.
That wraps it up.
Very good segment.
What was it? What we were going to call it? JT's what?
Who you got?
Who you got? I like it. I like this segment. Forget about Say What. Tony, stay out on assignment, brother. He's covering the Pro Bowl already. He's out in Hawaii.
God knows where he is.
He knows what he's doing.
Indianapolis.
When we come back, we're gonna look forward. We're always looking forward here.
It is. We are.
Let's do that. We'll be back with the top
progressive
10.
show.
Exactly. Tri-State Sports, guys.